The story people tell when they move to Texas is a relatively simple one. No state income tax, a lower cost of living, a big new house, and great schools. In 2026, that story is about half true. And the half that's missing is a part that hits you every month after you already get here. I'm not trying to talk you out of Texas, but if you come here without knowing what I'm about to tell you, you're going to learn it on your own. And it's a lot cheaper to learn it now. There's a moment every relocating family goes through. You're on the couch back home, you pull up Zillow on your phone, and you type in Frisco or McKinney, and you see it. 3,500 square feet, 4 bedrooms, a pool, $650,000. Where you're coming from, that same house is 1.2, 1.3 million. You screenshot it, you send it to your spouse, you're already picking bedrooms in your head before you've closed the app. And that's the moment where people get ahead of themselves because that number on the screen is not your monthly payment. In fact, it's not even close. Earlier this year, I sat with a couple from California who had already found their house out here. They loved it. They were already talking about which school their kids would go to. Then we pulled up their actual monthly expenses. The mortgage with the property tax of 2% on it, the insurance, HOA, and it came in around $700 higher than what they had been planning around. Not because the house was wrong, but because there were 3 line items that don't show up on Zillow, and they add up fast. They didn't lose the house, they adjusted. But I've watched the same moment happen dozens of times, where the number in your head meets the number that's actually real. And they're not the same number. Texas home prices are up about 40% since 2019. Income here only grew maybe about 3%. On an $800,000 home, property taxes alone runs $16,000 a year. Your all-in monthly clears $6,000 before you've even spent anything on groceries, gas, even though it's cheaper here in Texas, or the activities for your kids, sports, music lessons, a car if your kid's 15 or 16 years old. Think about it. Now, Texas is still cheaper than the Bay Area, but it's not the obvious move it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And when people realize that, they start to look further out in the Metroplex to try to get more house for the money, which actually sounds like a good idea until you see what it actually costs you in other ways. And when I say further out, I mean Prosper and Celina, the far end of the Frisco corridor. Bigger lots, newer builds, better price per square foot on paper. And on paper, it makes a lot of sense. But here's what it actually looks like 6 months in. Your alarm goes off at 5:50. You're on the tollway by 6:45 because if you leave any later than that, you're adding 20 minutes to the drive. You sit in your car for an hour and 15. Then you get to the office. At 5 o'clock, you do the whole thing in reverse. You walk in the door at 6:30 and dinner's already halfway done. Your kids started homework without you. The house is great. You're just never really in it when it matters. That's a lot of people's story when they move out here to the far end of the corridor. Frisco, Prosper, McKinney, Celina. A lot of people bought out here in 2021 because they were told they could work from home. And that changed for a lot of them. They're back in the office 4 or 5 times a week, doing a commute they've actually never planned on. And it's to an office that's 40 miles from a house they picked specifically because they weren't supposed to go back every day. And the tollways that you see on the map, the Dallas North Tollway, everybody jumps on going north to south to Dallas or to Frisco if you live in Celina. Those tollways aren't free. Frisco to downtown Dallas runs about $6 each way, even with a toll tag. That's $220 a month on one toll road with one car. And if you don't have a toll tag, if you just drove through it because you didn't know that you needed one, you pay double. Nobody really mentions that when you move in. You just drive through on day 3 and then the bill shows up 2 weeks later. So before we even halfway through this, the house already costs more than what was advertised. The drive to make the price work is longer than the map actually made it look. And there's a toll bill on top of that commute that nobody really puts into their budget until after month 2 of driving it. Okay, so the next two are different. And they don't really have anything to do with money, but they're the ones that catch people off guard the most when it happens. And I want to make it clear that even though the Dallas North Tollway is expanding through Celina, right outside my neighborhood where I live, it still takes me a long time because the fact is, it's not done yet. So during rush hour traffic, it does add between 15 to 25 minutes each way, whether you're going south or north, because everybody is trying to get to work in the morning now that work from home is pretty much over with. Okay, so this next one is harder to explain, but I've watched it settle in on people more quietly than almost anything else on this list. North Texas is about 9,000 square miles. It's flat and it looks pretty much the same in every direction for as far as you can see. The family McKinney and the family in Mansfield are both technically living in Dallas. They're also 75 miles apart. Completely different restaurants, different commutes, completely different weekends. You don't really live in DFW. You live in your little corner of it. And the rest of the metro might as well be another city. And when you want to get out, when you're looking for mountains or coastline or terrain that looks different from your neighborhood, the Gulf Coast is 5 hours away. And it's not really what people from California are picturing when they hear the word beach. Real mountains are 12 hours. The hill country is genuinely beautiful, but it is a full weekend trip down to Austin, so it's not really something that you plan for in a Saturday afternoon. Some people figure that out quickly and they're fine. They find the lakes and the trails and the open land, and they build a life around what Texas actually has instead of missing what it doesn't. But the people that don't really make that adjustment, they're the ones who are kind of unsettled at year 2 and year 3. Everything looks right on paper: good house, great schools, good job, and something still doesn't feel like home. They can't always tell you what it is, but it's this: the geography. Okay, this is the one that people never really quite stop talking about year after year. They move to Texas knowing it's going to be hot. But what you don't expect is how much it rearranges your actual day-to-day. From June through September, your backyard basically disappears. It's right there. You're just not really going out and enjoying the 100-degree weather. The trails you found in April and the neighborhood you were picturing yourself walking through on a summer evening, all of that either moves to 7 in the morning or 8 p.m. at night when the sun goes down. For about 4 months, you go from your house to your car to a building and back to your car and then back to your house. That's what the day-to-day actually looks like in peak summertime. People from California think they understand this because it gets hot there too, but it's not the same thing. Here, the heat decides what your summer actually looks like, and you just kind of work around it. When I was growing up here, I remember riding bikes from April till about mid-June. And then when the summer really sets in, you just stop going outside with your friends. You kind of have more of a indoor culture, and you pretty much do everything bouncing between your friends' homes. That's kind of what it's like as a grown-up as well. Unless you have a covered patio with great air conditioning, you're probably not going to be outside very much. Look, Texas is still a really good move for the right person. I work here, I live here, and I grew up here. I send families here every week, and I'm not being diplomatic when I say that. But the version of Texas that got sold during the big relocation wave, cheap, easy, spacious, no real trade-offs, that version has some real fine print on it in 2026. None of this stuff is a deal breaker for a lot of people, but all of it is a real decision that's worth making with your eyes open. If you want help figuring out whether this move is right for you, that's what I do. Contact info is in the description. Texas keeps its promises. Just make sure you know which ones you're counting on before you get here. I'll see you in the next video.